want you to discuss some of the projects that you're most excited about, whether it's this year or next year. But I picked out three hognose snakes from your Instagram page that just kind of stand out to me. So I'm going to bring them up on the screen, and I want you to kind of give an explanation about them, and maybe what do you plan on pairing with them. So I'm going to share this first one. All right, so this one right here, you had labeled an extreme red, purple albino male.
Yes.
So the colors of this is mind-boggling. What are your plans for this guy right here?
So I did three things with him. I took him to a Xanthic, purple line of Xanthic. I would love to see more of that saturated pink and less gray on an adult snow. I took it to Sable, and I made double heads because I really love the classic, the old Dedrick line, purple line albino stuff that Dan Evie put into some of his Sable stuff. That really nice ruby red sunburst stuff that he has is amazing. I would like to have some of that incorporated into that. And believe it or not, I put that into lavender because I enjoy corals. And in the beginning, the first few corals that I made, they did lose a lot of the pink, and that was because it didn't really have a lot of purple line. And the reason why I didn't have purple line is because in the beginning, a lot of the lavender stuff that was out, it was so inbred that you produce a lot of weak babies. So I had to take that lavender line and outcross it, 2 generations to be able to get really nice and strong lavenders, to the point where I was able to go ahead and make nice lavenders that were healthy, and then he went to one of those lavenders.
Okay, so now I'm gonna bring up another one, and this one right here, definitely something I hopefully can produce one day, and this is your RBE Pastel Sable Super Conda. So what are your plans with this one? Is this a male or a female?
That's a male. Yeah. That male came to me from Andrew Sparks. And I purchased that. I traded Andrew for that male. The goal behind that male is taking RBE Pastel, Sable, and the Toffee and making Mai Tais, but also adding Arctic to that. And I also wanted to add a Xanthic to that. So that was that goal. Have you seen RBE Pastel Xanthics? They're very nice.
No, I haven't. And so explain what that gene is, the RBE Pastel.
RBE is
for those who don't know.
Okay. There's different, I would say, there is no super form, so it's a dominant form. You have to breed RBE to something in order to get RBE. But when you breed RBE and you breed it to more RBEs, it gets nicer. But there isn't really a super form, because you could take that really nice RBE and breed it to a normal and still not get RBEs. So it
basically lightens the animal up. Because a Sable is usually dark, but when you add that in, it lightens it up.
Yes. What that does is more like an enhancer gene.
Yeah, enhancer.
Pastel, because that's what the pastel was in ball pythons. That's what the pastel does in a lot of other genes, and it does look pastel. It does look pastel. But when you breed other genes into the pastel, or the pastel into other genes, it enhances the color. It brings out what the actual gene does. So with Sable, it enhances all the nice coloring that you get on the cheeks. It enhances the scales. That's why the animal looks like the scales are very defined. On the top, it gives it like a orange, greenish, peach hue. On the top, it cleans it. And the belly on RBE pastels is also very translucent looking. Like it has a lot of that sheen. It's really nice. And sometimes it even, what it would do is that it would make the belly scales like caramel. Have you seen the caramel belly? Yeah, it does that sometimes. Doesn't always do that, but on the more On the more obvious and dramatic RBEs, you could see that.
Okay. And so now I'm gonna bring up the last snake, and this is the one I featured this on one of my videos, and I was pretty blown away when I saw it. Right here, the toxic super conda.
Yes. So toxic superconda. What I did with that, we produced that animal, and we went and a lot of the combinations that we produce, we make the recipe to make those animals ourselves. So I took a very dark Xanthic line, and I took a very light toffee line, and I made double heads. Then I took that dark male again, and I brought it to a different line that was a little bit darker, and that's where I discovered that that darker line had a little bit of RBE inside. And then I bred those. I made them female from the first batch, and then I made males from the second batch. I bred those heads together, and believe it or not, I got twins. That animal was a twin,
Wow.
and we produced two of them in the same clutch. And I got some toxic condas too, and those animals were exceptional. They were spectacular. At that time, they had only Brett Bumgarner had produced Toxic Super. I did it basically a couple months right after he did. So he did the world's first. Like I said, I always come 2nd. But it's cool because I like it. It's not like it's a race, but it's fun, you know, because then you're like, oh, that's kind of like what I pictured it to look like. And then when you produce your own, you're like, oh, okay, well, that one has this and this one has this, but that one has that. And then you know, you reach out like, hey, what'd you make that with? Because I see that yours looks like this and mine looks like this. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should add a little bit of that to make it look more like this. And but yeah, that's a toxics are beautiful. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
They're amazing. So imagine adding sable to a toxic.
Yeah.
Imagine adding. We haven't seen it yet, but you have sable lavender. Sable lavender is something that we're working towards. We have the Catalaha, which is what Philippe produced, which is the lavender frosted.
Yep. And it has like a reduced head pattern as well.
Correct.
From the pictures I've seen.
Lavender caramels are amazing too. Those are all things that we're gonna hopefully produce in 2022. We have a lot of that stuff going this 2022. And same thing with the leucistic. A lot of people feel like leucistic gene is a dead end, and it's not. It's not. Look what JMG did. He did zombie, what I call a zombie snake. He did an all
Super
white
Arctic
eyes, and that's because he added super Arctic, which Arctic genes already influence the eyes. If you saw my Arctic frosted conda, he has black eyes. They get black eyes because the Arctic gene does that. It's a very unique gene. So imagine he did double dose of the Arctic, so he made a super Arctic, and then he bred that with the leucistic, and he ended up getting super Arctic Lucy, which is an all white snake with black eyes. He didn't do it with those intentions. I think I overheard or I must have watched something where he was saying that he was hoping that it was going to do something to the pattern, but I don't necessarily think that that would be possible because the way that the leucistic develops, it doesn't look like there's something that could actually grow above it. It's more like there's probably color and pattern underneath it, but then there's like a gene that overpowers everything, and it grows because the belly on the leucistics when they're young it's clear. It's like a caramel gene, exactly like the caramel belly. And then as the animal gets older, it starts to turn more white. And then the bottom right now on mine are all white. But in the beginning, they were all pink. And it had like that stripe down the middle. And I paid attention to that, and I saw it as it got older, the whiter kept creeping from the top, and it just wrapped the snake. So I don't think that, I might be wrong, but my opinion is that I don't think that you would be able to change anything. But then you have stuff that comes out of Brett McGarner stuff, like he has.
Oh, his stuff is crazy.
Paradox that comes out of that original line, and then you're like, wow, that's crazy. Maybe there is something that could affect that. You know, maybe it's not just paradoxing, and I'm sure he's working on that. Hopefully, he discovers something, because I think there's still so much to be done with hognose, and I know that as an industry, the first thing that everything is compared to when it's on the rise is ball pythons. I don't think there could ever be another species that could top it like a ball python did. Because when the ball python fever came, there was people that were literally selling their homes to be able to buy investment. And I don't think that we're in this day and age, I don't think something like that is going to happen. But there's definitely a lot of room for growth, and it's not about having 5, 6, 7, 10 gene animals. Our future is through education, educating.
Yeah.
And as you know, I know too. I started with 1, went to 5, and then from 5 it jumped to 10, and then next thing you know, you're looking at a rack, and then you went from 1 rack, like me now. I don't even count snakes no more. If you to have, I could honestly, I won't have. You can tell me if I'll give you $1 million if you tell me exactly how many snakes you got. I won't be able to win that because I don't know. I know how many racks I got, but I don't know how many snakes I got. But like again, that's where the future is. The future of this industry and how we're going to continue to grow and we're going to be able to grow as a whole is educating. And those people that start with 1 snake just because they want a normal and they don't want to go above it, you can't, talk down on them because that's a low sale or whatever. That's a potential person that's going to help us grow.
Yeah.
And that's the next top 5 breeder in the world. And you got to treat them as the future because it's our future. That's how we're going to grow. And we won't get far if we think that, there's no such thing, as or that there's no beauty in normal and there's no beauty in classics. There is. Of course there is. That's
where everything starts.
How we got here. That's exactly how we got here. So, yeah, personally, I think that there's definitely still a whole lot of growing to do. A whole going to do for everyone, not just for us, not just for breeders, but for keepers, and a lot of information, useful information that can be shared and through YouTube channels like yours, other YouTube channels. And if somebody's willing to learn, there's a lot of information out there. The best thing that I could give, the best advice that I could give somebody who's looking to start is try to find somebody who's successful, that's in your same state, and try to mimic or try to get information and pointers from them so that you could learn, because what works for us in Florida does not work or may not work for people up north and other. We have different set of obstacles here.
Yeah.
And I learned that firsthand. So when people come to give me advice or ask me for advice, the best advice that I could give them is, where are you from? Where exactly where, and what are your obstacles? What are your set of obstacles? Like, are you having trouble heating? Are you having trouble keeping humidity? Are you having, because a lot of people have trouble keeping humidity, and then we have trouble keeping humidity down.
Yeah.
And so there's different things that we got to work out. But if you understand Hognose in general, then you could always give, help. You can.